5 years after vanishing, Ethan Brooks clutched a cream-colored envelope, his name scrawled in Lauren's unmistakable handwriting. She'd told him to disappear, and he had, erasing himself in the humid shadows of Key West. Now, outside a glitzy Miami Gala, he stared through glass doors at her, the celebrated widow who'd lied to the world about his death. Her laugh carried faintly into the street as she mingled under sparkling lights, unaware he was about to shatter her perfect charade. Ethan's pulse quickened. This wasn't just a reunion. It was the start of a dangerous unraveling. Ethan, 35, a former music teacher, had spent half a decade as a ghost. After Lauren's venomous words, "Get out, disappear, I don't care where you go," he'd left their Miami apartment with nothing but a wallet and a broken sense of self. In Key West, he'd taken odd jobs, fixed boats, and taught guitar to kids for cash, always under aliases. That morning, he'd stopped to help a stranded driver with a flat tire, a small act of kindness that reminded him he still had a heart. Now, standing outside the Gala, that heart pounded as he gripped the invitation, his ticket into her world of lies. The doorman's voice cut through his thoughts. "Sir, invitation?" His hand hovered near an earpiece, eyes narrowing. Ethan didn't answer at first, his gaze locked on Lauren. She stood among a crowd in cocktail attire, holding a glass of white wine she never used to drink, her poise a stark contrast to the woman who once threw his keys into the street during a fight. He handed over the envelope. The doorman scanned it, his brow twitching as he read Ethan's name. Without a word, he stepped aside, and Ethan walked into the ballroom, the air thick with perfume and soft jazz. The room buzzed with Miami's elite, philanthropists, influencers, and donors Lauren had charmed since his death. Ethan's cheap suit felt like armor as he moved through the crowd, unnoticed but hyper-alert. Then Lauren saw him. Her face didn't pale. It froze, her wine glass slipping from her hand. It shattered on the polished floor, the sound slicing through the music. Gasps rippled around her as she swayed, then collapsed, her body crumpling onto a rug that probably cost more than his last year's rent. People screamed. A woman in a sequin dress yelled for a doctor. Ethan stood rooted, watching as paramedics rushed in, their radios crackling. Lauren's eyes fluttered, locking onto his for a split second before she was lifted onto a stretcher. The crowd whispered, speculating stress, dehydration, a medical condition. No one asked who Ethan was. No one connected him to the woman they knew as a grieving widow who'd turned her pain into a charity empire. But Ethan knew better. That collapse wasn't random. It was her first crack. As paramedics wheeled her out, Ethan slipped a folded note from his pocket and tucked it under a centerpiece on a nearby auction table. "You told me to disappear, so I did." Simple, no threats, just a quiet declaration of his return. He left the Gala before anyone could question him, the Miami night heavy with heat and the distant hum of traffic. Back at his motel, a dive off Ocean Drive, his phone buzzed with a blocked number. He answered, heart racing. A low voice, male, unfamiliar, said, "You don't belong here, Ethan. Leave now, or you won't get another chance." The line went dead. Sleep didn't come. Ethan sat on the edge of the motel bed, replaying the voice, Lauren's collapse, the invitation. How had she found him? He'd been careful. No social media, no credit cards, no trace. Yet the envelope had arrived at his Key West P.O. box 3 days ago. Her handwriting as shaky as ever when she lied. He pulled it out again, noticing something he'd missed, a faint address scribbled on the back, a storage unit in Hialeah. It wasn't a random clue. It was a lead. The next morning, Ethan drove to the storage facility, a rundown lot with rusted orange doors and no cameras. He paid cash to a board clerk and found Unit 17B. The lock was already cut, the door slightly ajar. Inside, the air smelled of dust and secrets. For boxes sat stacked against a wall, labeled with dates and his name. Ethan 2020, Ethan 2021. He opened one, his hands unsteady. Letters he'd never seen, all addressed to him, dated his birthday each year. "Ethan, I dream of you by the sink, humming that stupid song. I hate you for leaving. I hate me for making you." His stomach churned. He dug deeper, finding photos, not old ones from their marriage, but recent. Him at a Key West diner, reading a newspaper. Him fixing a boat on the dock. Someone had been watching him for years. At the bottom of the box, newspaper clippings. Men reported missing, presumed dead, all with memorials organized by their grieving wives. One name was circled in red ink, Michael Torres, 2022, with a note. Not him. Ethan's breath caught. Lauren wasn't just lying about him. She was collecting disappearances. A noise outside snapped him back. A car engine too close. He grabbed a handful of photos and a letter, shoved them into his jacket, and slipped out, locking the unit behind him. As he drove away, his phone buzzed again. Another block number, this time a voicemail. You're digging in places you shouldn't, Ethan. She told you to disappear. That offer's still good. His hands tightened on the wheel. This wasn't just about Lauren's betrayal anymore. It was a warning, and he was already in too deep to turn back. Ethan's hands shook as he gripped the steering wheel, the Hialeah storage unit shrinking in his rearview mirror. The photos and letters stuffed in his jacket felt like contraband, each one proof that Lauren had not only erased him, but had been watching him live his quiet, hidden life in Key West. The voicemail's warning echoed in his head. She told you to disappear. That offer's still good. His pulse hammered. This wasn't just about her lie anymore. It was a game, and he was a player who didn't know the rules. Back at his motel, Ethan spread the stolen items across the bed. The photos showed him at mundane moments, buying coffee, restringing a guitar, walking the pier at dusk. Someone had tracked him for years, unnoticed. The letter, dated his last birthday, was more unhinged than the one from the Gala night. Ethan, you're still out there, aren't you? I see you in every stranger's shadow. I'll find you to fix this. Her words weren't remorseful. They were obsessive, possessive. The newspaper clippings were worse. Michael Torres, 2022. David Reyes, 2023. Both men lost in accidents. Both mourned by Lauren at public memorials. Both had notes in red ink. Not him. Ethan's gut twisted. Was he the template? Or just a first? He needed answers, but the motel felt like a trap waiting to spring. He packed the evidence into a backpack and checked out, paying cash to avoid a paper trail. Driving aimlessly through Miami's neon-lit streets, he remembered a name from one of the clippings, Detective Carla Mendez. She'd written a skeptical article about Lauren's memorial for him, hinting at inconsistencies no one else pursued. If anyone could help, it was her. Ethan found a payphone outside a gas station, the kind of relic he trusted more than his burner phone. He dialed the precinct, and after a tense wait, Carla's voice came through, sharp and cautious. Mendez. Ethan Brooks, he said, voice low. I'm not dead. Silence stretched, then she replied, meet me at Rusty's Diner, 2 towns over. 1 hour. Come alone. He hung up, glancing over his shoulder. The street was empty, but the hairs on his neck stood up. He drove, weaving through side streets to shake any tails, his eyes flicking to the mirrors. Rusty's Diner was a fluorescent-lit hole in the wall, smelling of burnt coffee and fries. Carla sat in a corner booth, her dark hair pulled back, a notebook already open. She didn't blink at his disheveled state, just slid a coffee toward him. I thought you were a roomer, she said. Lauren's memorial for you was too perfect. Tears, speeches, donations pouring in. I smelled a con, but no one listened. Ethan pulled out the photos and clippings, laying them on the table. Her eyes narrowed as she scanned them. She's done this before, she said, tapping Michael Torres's obituary. And she's not working alone. Ethan leaned forward. What do you mean? Carla lowered her voice. Lauren's charity isn't just a front for sympathy. It's a machine. She targets men, gets close, makes them disappear, then plays the grieving widow to rake in donations and influence. Michael Torres was a contractor who questioned her finances. David Reyes was a journalist digging too deep. You're the first, but you're the only one who came back. Ethan's throat tightened. Why me? Why fake my death? Carla's jaw clenched. Because you left on your own. She couldn't control that, so she rewrote the story. She slid a folded paper across the table, an address for Lauren's Miami Beach mansion. She's there now, discharged from the hospital this morning. If you want answers, that's where you'll find them. But be careful. She's got people, security, maybe worse. Ethan nodded, pocketing the address. As he stood to leave, Carla grabbed his arm. One more thing. I found a safe deposit box registered under your name. It's got something she didn't want anyone to see. I'll get you the key, but you need to move fast. Ethan drove to Miami Beach, the city's glitz fading into the quiet wealth of Lauren's neighborhood. Her mansion loomed behind electronic gates, a fortress of glass and steel. He parked half a mile away, cutting through dense mangroves to avoid detection. Thorne snagged his jacket as he scaled a low wall, landing in a shadowed garden. The air was thick with salt and jasmine. He crouched, heart pounding, and saw her through a window, Lauren, pacing, phone in hand, her silhouette sharp against the light. She wasn't alone. A man, tall and broad, stood nearby, his posture rigid like a soldier awaiting orders. Ethan crept closer, staying low. The garden led to a side door, unlocked, as if daring him to enter. He slipped inside, the house eerily silent except for Lauren's voice down the hall. "He's back, Marcus. He was at the Gala. Fix this." Ethan froze. Marcus, her security, her archivist, as she'd called him at the Gala. He moved toward the sound, finding a study where Lauren stood, her back to him, still on the phone. "No, I don't care how. Make him disappear again. Permanently." Ethan's blood ran cold. He backed away, but his shoes scuffed the floor. Lauren spun around, her eyes locking onto his. For a moment, neither moved. Then she smiled, chilling and deliberate. "You're early," she said, hanging up the phone. Marcus appeared in the doorway, blocking Ethan's exit. "You should have stayed gone," he said, voice flat. Ethan's mind raced. He bolted for a side hallway, Lauren's laughter trailing him. "You can't outrun a story, Ethan." He found a staircase and sprinted up, slamming into a locked door at the top. It was an attic, and through a small window, he saw shelves lined with boxes, labeled with his name, dates, moments of his life. His stomach lurched. This was her archive, a museum of his existence she'd curated while the world thought him dead. He jimmied the lock with a penknife, heart hammering, and slipped inside. The boxes held tapes, photos, even his old guitar picks, each item tagged like evidence in a crime scene. One label read, "Ethan, 2024, Key West, still running." Footsteps thudded below. Marcus was coming. Ethan grabbed a small tape labeled Confession and stuffed it into his pocket. He climbed out the attic window onto a sloped roof, the Miami skyline glittering below. He slid down, landing hard in the garden, and ran, ignoring the pain in his ankle. Behind him, Marcus's silhouette appeared at the gate, but Ethan vanished into the mangroves, the tape burning a hole in his pocket. He didn't know what it held, but it was leverage, maybe the only thing that could bring Lauren down. Ethan stumbled through the mangroves, the stolen tape in his pocket feeling heavier with every step. His ankle throbbed from the jump off Lauren's roof, but the adrenaline of escaping Marcus, her enforcer, kept him moving. The Miami night buzzed with distant traffic and cicadas, masking the sound of his ragged breaths. He'd seen her archive, boxes of his life, meticulously cataloged, proof she'd never let him go. The tape labeled Confession was his only weapon now, and he had to know what it held before Marcus caught up. He reached a gas station on the edge of Hialeah, its neon sign flickering. A clerk barely glanced up as Ethan bought a cheap burner phone and a coffee to steady his nerves. He found a quiet corner behind a dumpster, popped the tape into a portable player he'd grabbed from his motel, and hit play. Lauren's voice crackled through, calm but strained, like she was confessing to a priest. "Ethan, if you're hearing this, you found my truth. I told the world you drowned because it was easier than admitting I broke us. I needed you gone to build something new, someone new, but I couldn't stop watching you." The tape cut off abruptly, mid-sentence, as if she'd changed her mind. Ethan's hands shook. It wasn't enough. Not yet. He dialed Detective Carla Mendez from the burner phone, his only ally. She answered on the second ring, her voice sharp. "You're alive." "Good. Where are you?" Ethan gave her the gas station's address, his eyes scanning the lot for Marcus's silhouette. "I've got a tape," he said. Lauren's voice, admitting she lied about my death. "But it's incomplete." Carla's tone hardened. "Get to my office. Now, I've got something you need to see." Ethan hesitated, then ditched the coffee and hailed a cab, keeping his head low as the driver sped toward downtown Miami. Carla's precinct was a squat building buzzing with late-night activity. She met him at a side entrance, her eyes darting to the shadows behind him. Inside a cramped office, she handed him a USB drive. "This was in the safe deposit box under your name," she said. "I pulled strings to access it. It's footage security cam from a Key West bar, dated 2 years ago." Ethan's stomach dropped. He plugged the USB into her computer, and the grainy video loaded. It showed him at a bar, laughing with a bartender, oblivious to a camera across the street. Then Lauren appeared, watching from a parked car, her face unreadable. The timestamp matched one of the photos from her archive. "She's been tracking you since you left," Carla said. "But it's worse. I cross-checked those clippings you showed me. Michael Torres and David Reyes? Their accidents happened after they got too close to her charity's finances. She's not just obsessed, she's dangerous." Ethan's mind raced. "Why keep me alive, then?" Carla leaned forward. "You're her origin story. The first one she erased. If you expose her, the whole house of cards falls." A plan formed, reckless but clear. Ethan needed to confront Lauren again, not at her mansion, but somewhere public where Marcus couldn't touch him. He remembered the Gala's charity auction was live-streamed, with a follow-up event tomorrow at a downtown Miami hotel. If he could get the tape's audio out there, it could unravel her lies. But first, he needed more proof, something undeniable. Carla handed him a key. "This opens a second storage unit, one she doesn't know I found. It's in Dade County. Go now, before she realizes you're still moving." Ethan drove a borrowed car from Carla's precinct to the Dade County storage lot, a desolate place under flickering streetlights. Unit 12, it was locked, but the key worked. Inside, he found more boxes, these labeled with other names: Torres, Reyes, Alvarez. He opened one and found bank records, forged death certificates, and photos of men who looked eerily like him. Same build, same tired eyes. A notebook listed transactions, donations to Lauren's charity spiking after each tragedy. She wasn't just staging deaths. She was profiting from them. A car's headlights swept the lot. Ethan ducked, heart pounding, and stuffed a bank record and a forged certificate into his bag. He slipped out, locking the unit, and hid behind a rusted dumpster as a black SUV pulled up. Marcus stepped out, scanning the area, his phone pressed to his ear. "He's here somewhere," he said. "Find him, or she'll have both our heads." Ethan held his breath, waiting until the SUV rolled away before sprinting to his car. He drove to a cheap motel in Coral Gables, checking in under a fake name. In his room, Ethan pieced it together. Lauren's charity was a front, a scheme built on fake grief and real money. He was her first test, the one she perfected her playbook on. The tape, the USB, the documents, they were enough to expose her, but only if he could get them to the right people. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You can't hide forever, Ethan. Come to the hotel tomorrow. Let's end this." It was Lauren. She knew he was closing in. Ethan called Carla again. "She's baiting me to the hotel. Tomorrow's auction. It's live-streamed, right?" Carla confirmed. "Yeah, thousands watch it. If you've got something solid, that's your stage." Ethan nodded to himself. "I'm going, but I need backup." Carla promised to have plainclothes officers nearby, but warned, don't confront her directly. She's got Marcus and maybe others. Play it smart. As dawn broke, Ethan prepared. He copied the tape's audio to his phone and hid the documents in a locker at a bus station, texting Carla the location as insurance. The hotel loomed ahead, a glass tower packed with donors and cameras. Ethan slipped in through a service entrance, blending with the catering staff. Inside, Lauren's voice echoed from a stage, charming the crowd with tales of her loss. Ethan's blood boiled. He was done being her ghost. Tonight, the world would hear her confession and see her for what she really was. Ethan crouched behind a stack of catering crates in a Miami hotel service corridor, the hum of the charity auction filtering through the walls. Lauren's voice, smooth and practiced, carried over the live stream, painting her as a beacon of resilience. The tape in his pocket, her partial confession, burned like a live wire. He'd stashed the forged documents and bank records in a bus station locker, texting the location to Detective Carla Mendez as a failsafe. Tonight, he'd expose Lauren's lies to thousands watching online, but Marcus, her enforcer, was somewhere in the crowd, waiting for him to slip. His burner phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. "You're here, Ethan. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Lauren's words, taunting, as if she could sense him. He silenced the phone, heart pounding, and slipped into the main hall, blending with the catering staff in a borrowed apron. The auction was in full swing, bidders raising paddles for art and vacations, all funneled to Lauren's charity. She stood on stage, commanding attention, her every word a calculated performance. Ethan's fingers tightened around the phone, holding her recorded confession. This was his moment. He edged toward the tech booth at the back, where the live stream controls were manned by a distracted techie scrolling on his phone. Ethan had cased the setup earlier. Audio feeds ran through a laptop, easy to hijack if he could get close. Carla had promised plainclothes officers in the crowd, but Ethan saw no sign of them. He scanned for Marcus, spotting him near the stage, his broad frame cutting through the crowd like a shark. Their eyes met for a split second, and Marcus's head tilted, a predator locking onto prey. Ethan ducked behind a pillar, his pulse racing. He reached the booth, slipping inside as the techie stepped out for a smoke. The laptop was open, the livestream feed live. Ethan plugged his phone into the audio port, uploading Lauren's confession tape. Her voice, "I told the world you drowned because it was easier than admitting I broke us," was ready to play, but he needed a distraction to buy time. He texted Carla, "Now, stage right." Seconds later, a commotion erupted near the stage. A waiter accidentally spilled wine on a donor, drawing Marcus's attention. Ethan hit play. Lauren's confession blared through the speakers, cutting off her speech mid-sentence. The crowd froze, murmurs rippling as her voice echoed. "I needed you gone to build something new." Gasps followed. Lauren's composure cracked, her eyes darting to the booth. Ethan locked the laptop, ensuring the audio looped, and slipped out as security rushed toward him. Marcus was already moving, shoving through bitters, his face set with cold purpose. Ethan bolted for a side exit, the crowd's chaos covering his escape. Outside, the Miami night was sticky, the hotel's neon glow fading as he sprinted toward a parking garage. His phone buzzed. "Carla." "Officers moving in." "Get to the garage, level 3. Ethan climbed the stairs, lungs burning, but as he reached the third level, headlights flared. A black SUV screeched to a stop, Marcus stepping out with another man, both closing in. "You're done, Brooks," Marcus said, his voice low. Ethan backed toward a concrete pillar, gripping a tire iron he grabbed from a maintenance cart. "Not yet," he said, stalling. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Marcus hesitated, glancing at his partner, who nodded toward the exit. "She'll handle this," the partner muttered, and they peeled out, tires squealing. Ethan dropped the tire iron, relief flooding him as Carla's unmarked car pulled up. "Get in," she snapped. Inside, she handed him a tablet streaming the auction's fallout. Social media was exploding. Hashtag Lauren Lies trending, donors demanding answers. The confession had gone viral, shared across platforms before Lauren's team could scrub it. "She's cornered," Carla said, weaving through traffic. "But she's not done. I pulled the storage unit records he sent. They tie her to Torres and Reyes's disappearances, bank transfers, fake IDs. We're building a case, but she's got connections. You need to stay low." Ethan shook his head. "I'm not running again. She doesn't get to rewrite me anymore." Carla's jaw tightened, but she nodded. "Then we need more. There's a laptop in her mansion, her real records. If we get it, she's finished." Ethan agreed, his mind racing. They drove to a safe house in Coconut Grove, a nondescript condo where Carla stashed him with a burner phone and a warning. "No moves until I say." Alone, Ethan replayed the night's events. Lauren's empire was cracking, but she'd anticipated his return, baiting him to the auction. The second storage unit's contents, bank records, forged certificates, were damning, but the laptop was the key. He texted Carla the locker's passcode, ensuring the documents were secure, then paced, unable to sit still. His phone buzzed again, another unknown number. A photo loaded. Him, tonight in the tech booth. Below it, a message. "You think you've won? I'm not the only one watching." Ethan's blood ran cold. Lauren wasn't alone in this. Someone else was pulling strings, protecting her. He forwarded the text to Carla, who called immediately. "Stay put," she ordered. "We're tracing the number, but it's a ghost. Whoever they are, they're close." Ethan gripped the phone, the safe house walls feeling tighter. Lauren's confession was out, but the game wasn't over. Someone wanted him silenced, and they were already one step ahead. Ethan sat in the Coconut Grove safe house, the burner phone screen glowing with the anonymous text. "You think you've won? I'm not the only one watching." His hands trembled as he forwarded it to Detective Carla Mendez. Lauren's confession tape, now viral, had shaken her empire, but someone else was in the shadows, protecting her. The laptop in her Miami Beach mansion held the final proof. Her real financial records, linking her to the disappearances of Michael Torres, David Reyes, and others. Ethan wasn't running anymore. He'd end this legally, exposing her for good. Carla called, her voice clipped. The text came from a burner, untraceable. But the storage unit documents are solid. Forged IDs, bank transfers. We need that laptop to seal the case. About a warrant, but Lauren's connected. Her people might move at first. Ethan's jaw tightened. I'm going in. Tonight. Carla protested, but he cut her off. She doesn't get to erase me again. After a tense pause, Carla relented. Fine. I'll have officers nearby, but you're not a cop. Get the laptop, get out. Ethan planned his move. Lauren's mansion was a fortress, but he knew its weak point, the side garden door he'd used before. He drove a borrowed car, parking a mile away to avoid cameras. The Miami night was humid, the air thick with salt and tension. He slipped through mangroves, thorns scraping his hands, and scaled the garden wall, landing silently. The side door was still unlocked, a trap or an oversight. He crept inside, the house quiet except for a faint hum of voices from the upper floor. Sticking to shadows, Ethan moved to the study where he'd seen Lauren before. The laptop sat on a desk, its screen dark. He powered it on, heart pounding, but it demanded a password. He tried his old anniversary date. Nothing. Then his name, her name, variations. No luck. Footsteps echoed above, deliberate and heavy. Marcus. Ethan grabbed a USB drive from his pocket, hoping to copy files if he could crack the password later. As he plugged it in, a door creaked open behind him. Lauren's voice was calm, almost amused. You're predictable, Ethan. He spun around. She stood in the doorway, Marcus looming behind her, his hand on a holstered gun. You think a viral tape ends this? She said. You were my first draft. I perfected the story with others. Ethan's eyes flicked to Marcus. You're her cleanup crew? Marcus didn't answer, just stepped closer. Ethan gripped the USB, stalling. The world knows, Lauren. Your donors, your followers, they're done with you. Her laugh was sharp. They'll forgive a grieving widow. You're just a ghost who won't stay dead. She nodded to Marcus, who advanced. Ethan bolted, knocking over a chair to slow Marcus down. He sprinted for the stairs, the laptop under his arm, USB still plugged in. Marcus's footsteps thundered behind, but Ethan reached the garden door, bursting into the night. Sirens wailed nearby, Carla's backup. He ran toward the mangroves, hearing Marcus shout, He's got it. A police cruiser screeched into the driveway as Ethan dove into the brush. Officers swarmed, flashlights cutting through the dark. Drop it. One yelled at Marcus, who froze, hands raised. Ethan kept moving, clutching the laptop, until he reached Carla's car parked on a side street. She yanked the door open. You're insane, she said, but her eyes softened as he handed her the laptop. Password protected, he panted. But it's hers. Back at the precinct, a tech cracked the laptop in hours. It held everything. Encrypted emails detailing payouts to Marcus, forged documents for Torres and Reyes, and a ledger of charity funds siphoned to offshore accounts. Carla's team cross-referenced it with the storage unit evidence, building an airtight case for fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. By dawn, Lauren was arrested at her mansion, her face blank as cameras flashed. Marcus turned on her, cutting a deal to testify for a lighter sentence. The fallout was swift. News outlets ran the story, #LaurenLies, trending for days. Her charity collapsed as donors pulled funding and investigations opened into her network of enablers. Ethan watched it unfold from a Key West diner, the laptop's contents now public record. He'd done it. No violence, just truth. Carla called with an update. She's facing years in prison. You're free, Ethan. Really free. He exhaled, the weight of 5 years lifting. Ethan returned to Key West, renting a small apartment above a music shop. He opened a guitar school, teaching kids who reminded him of his old self, hopeful, a little lost. One evening, as he strummed on his porch, a stray dog curled up nearby, snoring softly. He named it Riley, a nod to a life reclaimed. The community knew him as Ethan, not a ghost or a victim. He joined a book club, laughed over coffee with neighbors, and found rhythm in the ordinary. Lauren's trial came months later, streamed online. Ethan didn't watch. He didn't need to. Her story, her lies, her control, had ended. His began anew, not as the man who disappeared, but as the one who returned, spoke, and stayed.